Thanks for watching Annie's Quilt Shop's favorite ruler videos. This is another video on the Quilters quarter marker. This is one of our favorite tools because you can do some very difficult blocks and techniques using a very simple, inexpensive ruler. It's called Quilters quarter marker, and today we're talking about a Y seam. That's the same seam as a mitered border, so you can watch our mitered border video on YouTube as well to learn how to put beautiful borders on your quilts, again using the Quilters quarter marker. So this seam here is the Y seam. Makes quilt blocks beautiful because it allows you to do less piecing in a beautiful border block like this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our Quilters quarter marker. The very first thing I do is lay out my pieces so I can see just where my Y seam is. Now I know that I've got all the right pieces here. I'm going to flip these pieces over, and I'm going to go ahead and take my Quilters quarter marker and mark all my 1/4 inch points. This is the key to sewing a perfect Y seam. All you have to do is lay your Quilters quarter marker down on your parallelogram, and then take your favorite marker. Because there's a hole in this ruler right at point A, which is your 45-degree angle, I can just make a point. I'm going to do that on all the corners of my parallelogram, and you'll notice that all I have to do is line the ruler up with the corners of the parallelogram that match the angle. It's always only one angle that matches. So I'm going to do it here, and then I'm going to do it down here at the end as well. So I have 4 points on all of my parallelograms. I'm also going to do this on my 2.5 inch square, or any pieces that I'm sewing my parallelogram to. I mark all of the 1/4 inch points. To do the 1/4 inch points on a square, you use the 90-degree point, which is point E. So I line that up on the straight edge of my square, make a point, do the same thing over here, make a point, and do that all the way around my square. So now I'm going to take my pieces, make sure I lay them out again so that I know I'm sewing them in the proper places, and I'm going to take these two and put them right sides together. Again, I'm going to note that the key to sewing a successful Y seam is sewing from these 1/4 inch marks, from one 1/4 inch mark to another. So as I lay this out here on my 2.5 inch square, I am going to take my Quilters quarter marker and take my little E dot, which is a 90-degree angle, and make sure that I can see my dot. When this is lined up on the edge of my 2.5 inch square, I'm going to make sure I can see that 1/4 inch mark. And I'm a tiny bit off, so I'm just going to scoot this up here, and apologize for my moving things around. This is a very slippery table we're using here. Okay, so now I'm going to line this up again, and there we go. My dot is right in the right spot. I'm going to double check on this side that my dot is right in the right spot again, and it is. So now I'm going to stitch from this point to this point. When I sew this seam, I use tiny stitches at the beginning. I do 1 stitch at 0, and then I do a couple stitches at point 1, and I go up to my 1.8 about here, stitch the rest of the way out, and go down to a tiny stitch again here. This allows me a very tight seam right at my 1/4 inch spot, but it does not give me a knot or the bulkiness of a lock stitch or a back stitch. So I'm going to stitch this seam on first. That will look just like this. So I've stitched from this dot, let me get my hands out of the way, to this dot right here, okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing on this edge over here. I'm going to finger press this back out of my way. Just like here, I'm going to finger press this back out of my way and towards the parallelogram. When I go to stitch this, I press my seams towards my parallelograms, and that allows me to do a little twist after I'm all done sewing and lay my seams where they all come together. I can lay those out flat, and I'll show you that after we're done here. So I'm going to push that back out of my way, and I'm going to now stitch from this dot to this dot. Again, another perfect seam, starting with tiny stitches and ending with tiny stitches. Okay, now I've got 2 seams. I'm going to take my little 2.5 inch square, make sure my seams are straight across here, and now I need to sew my final seam to make my perfect Y seam. So I'm going to line these up just like this, and I am now going to stitch from here out to here. So we'll do that real quick. again, I start right, put my needle right down in my 1/4 inch point there. Make sure everything's lined up. Make my stitch small. Do 1 stitch. And then I get a little bigger. Go right up to my 1.8 and sew right across there using a perfect 1/4 inch guide. If you're not sure where your 1/4 inch is, go ahead and watch our video on how to use the Quilters quarter marker for a 1/4 inch guide. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut my thread. And now I have sewn a perfect Y seam for my the corner of my block. Comes out nice and even. Now in the back, if I press this like this, and I press these towards the parallelogram, when I get this all nice and pressed with an iron, I can do a little twist, and these will all lay down nice and perfect like this, so that I don't have a lump or anything in the back of my quilt. So that's a real nice flat Y seam, real easy technique to do. Again, using the Quilters quarter marker makes Y seams a breeze. Thanks very much for watching.